Okay, so we are live. Welcome to Conversation with the Pastor. I'm your host, Dorothy Mae Ross, and your co host is the fabulous Camille Robb. And I am so happy that you joined us. And we have such a wonderful show for you today. So Camille is laughing because we trying to get ready for the show. As she says, sometimes people just don't know what we go through to make sure everything is right. And then sometimes at the last minute, things go south when we're trying to go north. But we are good. We're good. So today's conversation is all about God will provide. And I just want to say that have you ever thought that sometimes the things that God is asking you to do is so far beyond your knowledge or the strength that you have or even the mindset to do it. You just don't have it. It's just not there. So we're going to be talking about some of these things. Our topic is coming from Genesis 22, Abraham and Isaac. And I know most of you already know the story, but I'm going to be pulling some things out of the story. I'm not going to go through the whole story with you. I'm just going to um, talk about some questions that I actually found in there. And the more I read, the more I listened to the story, the more I got from it. Okay. So, what I want to do at this moment is to go to a commercial. And when we go to the commercial, when we come back, we will just dive in and we will start talking about God will provide. I'll see you back in a few minutes.
Tune in to Conversations with the Pastor on the Daily Gospel Network with host Pastor Dorothy Mayross, the television program dedicated to helping you get a clear understanding of God's Word and how applicable the Bible is to your everyday life. This is your opportunity to gain balance, minimize stress, and grow into the person God has meant you to be. Catch Conversations with the Pastor hosted by Pastor Dorothy Mayross every week on the Daily Gospel Network.
Welcome back to Conversation with the Pastor. And as I was saying before, we're talking about God will provide. What will God provide? Whatever you need Him to provide for you. So we're talking about have you ever actually been asked by God to do something and you just felt that, Lord, I don't have the strength for that. Lord, I don't have the mindset to move in that direction. Or, Lord, I don't have the knowledge to make those things happen. Okay. And sometimes it can get a little tough for us, but I believe that when God is asking us to do certain things, that we have to make sure that we are in a place where we really understand that God will supply. Okay, God will provide for us. I don't believe that He asks us to do anything, and we don't have the ability to make that happen. So, if I was going to title this conversation today, I would title it Faith Under Fire. Ooh. And I say that because sometimes when we have all the faith in the world, we believe that we do, okay? Then something comes up to cause our faith to waver, okay? And then we're not really sure if we're doing the right thing, if we're moving in the right direction, or if we've even made the right decision because our faith is under fire. But Philippians 4:19 tells us that God will supply every need according to his riches in glory in Christ Jesus. And God has riches that we have still yet to receive that's waiting on us. Now, here's the thing. What we have to do is we have to make the decision that we're going to level up and we're going to step into whatever it is that God wants us to do. And I believe when we talk about Abraham and Isaac, remember that God actually asked Abraham to do a sacrifice. And he also told him that he was to go up on the mountain to do it. So he needed Abraham to get away from all the things that were around him that might, now this is what I'm saying, that it might be a distraction for him, okay? Or somebody, have you ever decided that you want to do something? You had a made up mind to do it, and you start telling somebody about it, and they start trying to talk you out of it, okay? So I believe that that is why God, I need you to come up on the mountain. I need you to meet with me up here where I can really, really talk to you and show you some of the things that you need to do. So Abraham did. He gathered up everything. His son was helping him, and up the mountain they went. Okay. So we know in the story that once they got to the top of the mountain, well, even before they got to the mountain, the story says that on their way up, Abraham looked up, and when he looked up, he saw the mountain at a distance. He saw the top of it. Okay. So he kept going along with his only son, as God said, the son that he loved. Okay. They started on up and just kept going until they got to the top. When they got to the top, Abraham began to put things together. Okay. He needed fire, he needed wood, and he needed a sacrifice. So he had all of that there with him. Okay. Now I'm quickly telling the story because we're going to get into some questions. Okay. We're going to talk about these questions. He put all of this together, put his wood and everything on, got his altar together, put the wood on the altar, laid Isaac up on the wood. And then the word says that he binded him, he tied him up. Okay. So, we're not even going to get into the reason why he tied him up. There's so many things that we could talk about when it comes to that being tied up and not being able to move in the will of God. So after he did that and he raised his knife, the Bible says that an angel spoke from heaven and told him to stop. Now, here is where God supplied a ram in the bush. He gave him the sacrifice that he needed in order to give God what he had already asked for. Now, here's the thing. When we talk about God will supply, I think that ram in the bush was already there waiting. But Abraham was so focused on trusting what God said. And I believe that he believed even if I sacrifice my son, God was going to raise him up from the dead and give him back to me, because that was a promise he gave Abraham and Sarah that baby when they were well into their 90s and hundreds. Here's a barren woman in her 90s and she bore a child. Okay. But this is what God had promised him. So God gave him the promise that he spoke to him about. Now he was getting ready to take that promise from him. So what do you do? What do? You become obedient and you still yet do what it is that God is asking you to do. Trusting and believing that God has a way. He's going to make a way out for you. Oh my God. It's just, I'm telling you, this is a great story. If you haven't read it, Genesis 22, go in and read it. And because of that, Abraham called the place God, Jehovah Jireh, which means God will provide. So let's get into a few questions here. Okay. So I believe that we have to make sure that we're listening to what it is God has to say. Okay. So are you listening to what God has to say? Okay. To us. Are you really getting a true understanding of what it is God is asking you to do? Okay. So even when we're praying and we're asking God to do some things in our lives, are we sitting still long enough to actually hear what it is that God has to say about what we're asking? Sometimes, and I know you've heard it before, the answer isn't no. It's not no. But what the answer is there God has to go sometimes before us and prepare the way. He has to put some things in place, implement some things before he can provide us with what it is that we're asking him for. I know that I've told the story of how I was so far into debt, okay, that I could hardly lift my head, okay. I was robbing Peter to pay Paul and then taking from Paul to go back and pay Peter. I was going back and forth. I was doing it up. And I was continuously asking God to give me a way out, give me a way out. He showed me what it was that I needed and what I needed to do, and I just couldn't see it at that particular time. I just couldn't see it. Okay. But I continued on to prepare myself. Regardless of whether I believed it or not, I was believing in the impossible. $75,000 in debt. How the heck am I going to get out of this debt? But I just kept on working. I kept on working, kept on asking God for a plan. God gave me a plan. And guess what? I worked that plan. And I didn't get in a hurry about it because I knew that if God made a promise to me, at some point in time, that promise would come to reality in my life. So the next question I have for you is, are we prepared for what God has for us? Have we prepared ourselves? I don't know. Have you prepared yourself? Sometimes we're not prepared to receive what it is God has for us. Okay. And then we're going to come back and kind of elaborate on these here. The third question is, are we in the right place for God to prepare for us?
Mm.
So, if God is putting some things together for us, are we in the right place to receive it? We could be, we may not be. And then, are we leaving the past behind to have a better future?
Mm.
Sometimes we have to walk away from things in order to have something so much better. And then, lastly, are we seeing what we must do to receive what God has for us? I don't know. Okay. Are we seeing it? That means we got to see into a place, into the spirit. We got to get out of the natural and begin to see into the spirit. Hold on a second. And guess what? We are going to be right back. I've got something that I need to show you. See you in a few minutes.
Watch the CEO Room with your host Lamont Stephens on the Daily Gospel Network, the television show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs grow their businesses. Join us each week as we explore innovative ways to fulfill your God-given mission without sacrificing your quality of life. This is your opportunity to discover the exact strategies and techniques that world-class experts are using to live a freedom lifestyle, make a bigger impact, leave a legacy, and earn more, all while serving others. Catch the CEO Room with host Lamont Stephens every week on the Daily Gospel Network.
Thank you for coming on back here. So here's something that an open sidebar, and then we're going to get the fabulous Camille Robb in on this. Okay. So here's my sidebar. A demand was made and proof was given That's one thing. And then something was provided because of obedience. Then a promise was made and fulfilled through Abraham's seed. Okay. So we're going to first talk about a demand was made. Okay. So the demand that was made was Abraham needed a sacrifice that he needed to give to God. Okay. And if we're trusting and we're believing in what God is telling us, then we have to trust and believe whatever the man is that we can follow through. In today's, we don't have to worry about sacrificing our children or anything like that. We don't have to do that anymore because the sacrifice has already been made for us. Jesus was the sacrifice. So that was a done deal. Okay. But we're talking about everyday life things that God may put a demand on. Okay. I didn't have a job at one time, and I really, really wanted a job, and I prayed and I asked God to give me a job. And I sit down at the table, had a conversation with the Lord, and God gave me a job. I hated that job. I didn't want it. I didn't want that job. Okay. I asked for it, and God gave me that job. I did not want that job. Oh my God, I didn't want it. But guess what? I'm so glad that I proved myself wrong and I proved God right. And I stayed there 33 years and
Wow.
I retired from that job. But God blessed me so while I was on that job. So sometimes it's not what we want, but it's exactly what we need. What do you think about that, Camille?
And you're so right because, but 30 years though, Pastor Dorothy, 30 years for
30,
something that you don't like.
30, but I learned to love that job. After a while, I did learn to, the original job that I had, it was a paint company and it was called PG Berlin's. And then a company came in, Sherwin-Williams Paint Company. They bought that company. Okay. Now the PG Berlin side that I was in, I hated it. And I wanted to be fired. I wanted them to fire me. I was too scared to quit, but I wanted them to fire me and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. I
Because
didn't
they
know
know you were
nothing.
good at what you do. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. We always ask God for stuff, but then, like you said, are you in the position? So when he said, okay, let's go, are you willing to accept what he's going to give you? Because that's the demand that we have on God. If we ask, he will provide our needs. But our problem is that we want what we want when we want it. It's not our when we want it, it's on God's time. So I've been in a situation where I'm trying to figure out how am I going to pay my bills. Like with you, there was a point where there was no job and I had to
Mhm.
create one. And he was telling me, okay, you need to create this. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. And he's like, I'm not asking you. This is how you're going to make it to your next position. You have, and this is how we end up, that's how we end up starting the daycare because everything that I tried wasn't working. And I started a home daycare because of what God put into my heart.
Wow, wow. That's good. And then from there things just began to get bigger. The vision, the sight that I had on the job, so much came from me being on that job. It makes a difference when you are yeah, I think when I ventured out to start doing something different while I was on the job, and I was asked to join this group. I was so afraid of losing what I didn't already have. I didn't have no money. How could you be afraid to lose what you didn't have? But I was afraid to lose what I didn't have. But when I lost that fear and I stepped into faith, oh my God, God showed up in
He
such
showed
a
out.
yes, he did, in a miraculous way. So something was provided because of obedience. Okay. So in Abraham's case, a ram in the bush was provided because he trusted God and he was obedient to his word. Now, for me, in that instance on the job, because of my obedience, I learned how to buy houses, rehab houses, and sell houses so I could put money away for retirement later on. I never would have gotten all of that had I not been obedient to what it was and stayed on that job. I met so many great people as well. So the promise was made and fulfilled through Abraham's seed. But we're going to give uh, the fabulous Camille a chance to elaborate on something was provided because of obedience. Maybe something was given to her additional because of her obedience.
Well, yes, you see, he provided a ram. And that's something that my grandmother always said, God always have a ram in the bush. And now that I'm much older, I understand, because she said God will never give you more than you can handle, but he always have a backup plan in mind just in case you fail. And not only that, when he told me to start the daycare, I was providing needs for family because at the time I was a nurse, and the demand was nurses couldn't find a place for their children to go because a lot of us, we work at night. you know we were doing the 7 to 11 shift, working at 3 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night. And a lot of the parents that I have, they were single parents. So he showed me, if you provide for these family, I will provide for you. I
Wow.
mean, I had one, and I was so frustrated at one time with God because when I first started, I had one kid in the daycare, one for 1 year. I
But
was
that's
like,
okay. That is okay. You know what? We are so running out of time. I'm telling you, this is gonna have to be a part two for us. Okay. But I want to stop for a second because I've got another commercial, and then we're gonna come back. We're gonna conclude this, and we're gonna set up a time to come back and finish this conversation.
okay.
People need people to thrive in this entrepreneur arena. I am Dr. Patricia Rogers, Visibility Strategist. Join us for our online event on April 29th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You will make new connections, receive emails for follow-up, and a 30-second infomercial. Our early bird special is only $27 until April 1st. Schedule at the link below to speak at our events and to secure your seat for April 29th. I'm Dr. Patricia Rogers, Visibility Strategist, and I am the CEO of Unity in Service, where people need people.
All right, all right, all right. I love it. I love it. I love it. But you know what? I need to play that commercial one more time. I need people to be able to see the things on there. So give me a second here, guys.
This is what happened when you're alive.
Absolutely, absolutely. But this is an emergency call, so I'm gonna play the commercial.
People need people to thrive in this
Got-
entrepreneur arena. I am Dr. Patricia Rogers, Visibility Strategist. Join us for our online event on April 29th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You will make new connections, receive emails for follow-up, and a 30-second infomercial. Our early bird special is only $27 until April 1st. Schedule at the link below to speak at our events and to secure your seat for April 29th. I'm Dr. Patricia Rogers, Visibility Strategist, and I am the CEO of Unity in Service, where people need people.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to conclude this. We've got about 2 minutes to go, and like I said, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about this again. So I truly believe that when Abraham was faithful, that he trusted in God. That was one thing. He was also very obedient to what it was God wanted him to do. He persevered through, even though it wasn't something that he wanted to go through with, he persevered through it. Okay. He sacrificed, okay, what it was that he wanted for what it was that God wanted. And I'm telling you, when we do things like that, there's nothing that God will withhold from us. We can have just about anything that we desire. We have to continue to just speak over our own lives. What about you, fabulous Camille Robb?
Yeah, we do, because if we don't, we're just going to be like shadows. We have to speak what we want. They said the word is in the tongue. What you say can bring life or it could bring death. So you got to be positive, especially when it comes to your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what? Look, hey guys, when we get ready to do part two of this, where we're really going to break it down, then we will post it and you can come back and watch us on part two. That says God will provide. It's been grand. This is the end of this television broadcast. We are so glad that you decided that you would stay with us all the way to the end. And each time we learn something new, okay? And we learn how to do it better, okay? So we will see you next week, Monday at 12 noon, at 2 p.m., and at 6 p.m. on Daily Gospel Network, where we are your host, Pastor Dorothy Mae Ross, your co host, fabulous Camille Robb, on Conversation with the Pastor. We'll see you later. Bye bye.
Stay blessed, stay safe, and stay absolutely fabulous. See you soon.